Hi, everybody. We're going to do a quick deck tech today on a deck that I've just finished building. Got this idea from somebody in the Harry Potter TCG Revival Facebook group who pointed out this old combination that's existed. Well, I mean, somebody identified this way back when this game was in print, but it basically involves using Spiral Dive. Spiral Dive, as you can see right here, is a card that lets you discard any number of cards from your hand and do that much damage to your opponent. So you might be thinking, okay, generally I could give up a bunch of cards here, maybe stuff I don't need, do 5, 6, 7 damage maybe. No, the idea with this combo is that you want to draw your entire deck, save one card, of course, because if you draw the last card in your deck, you lose. So how do we do that? Well, if your opponent is kind enough to play Diagon Alley, you could go ahead and skip a total of 7 actions, and then your reward is that you can draw any number of cards. So you choose to draw the rest of your deck, you play Spiral Dive, and boom, you've got a win. Of course, you can't rely on your opponent to do that for you, and skipping 7 actions is not the funnest idea. So what do? We run 4 copies of Diagon Alley ourselves, and then we use this card, Draco's Trick, discard the adventure you've played, and you get the reward. So we play Diagon Alley one turn, the next turn we play Draco's Trick into Spiral Dive and win on the spot. Alright, so what's the problem with that? Well, Draco's Trick costs 7. The first problem we're going to have is how do we even get the ability to play 7 powers worth of lessons while also having this adventure that's in play and all the cards we need in our hand. So there's a bunch of pieces that have to come together here for this to really work. So the biggest hurdle, like I said, is getting the power that you need to play these. So we're going to use this card, Bravado. This is an addition that, at this point, we're sort of in the area of stuff that I came up with to add to this. This little 3-card combo of Draco's Trick, Diagon Alley, and Spiral Dive is the combo that I was referring to that's been around for a really long time. This stuff is things that I've added to it that I think are good or at least fun. So Bravado is one of those cards. You play Bravado, and for the rest of your turn, your spell cards need 5 less power to play. So that means you can play Bravado and then play Draco's Trick, even if you only have 2 power in play. Obviously, since you're playing Bravado, you have at least 3 power in play anyway. So that's going to make that significantly easier. It's also going to make the cost of your Spiral Dive go down to 1 power required as well. So the problem, of course, is that you really want to do this all in one turn. You can't afford to play Bravado and then Draco's Trick and then wait on the Spiral Dive to your next turn. You cannot feasibly sit there, with 50 cards in your hand and 1 card in your draw pile and hope that somehow your opponent can't deal you any damage. It just doesn't make sense. So the next important thing that we really need here is extra actions. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, for starters, we're going to play 4 of this card. This card is called Knut. You can only play 1 of these per turn, but then before for your next turn, if you've got this in play, you discard it and you get an extra action. So this will essentially let you forego 1 of your actions to have a 3-action turn next time. Even more powerful than this, we're running 4 Gringotts. Okay, Gringotts allows each player to get 1 more action on each of their turns. This is a location. For the most part, you're not going to see a lot of locations in tournament play. There are the occasional decks that run them, but generally speaking, locations are one of the safer things that you can kind of rely on staying in play, especially because it's giving your opponent an extra action every turn too. They're not particularly incentivized to get rid of this. Of course, if they are a deck that is pretty reliant on locations, just by playing a Gringotts, you'll discard their location. So this is certainly more effective than Knut, but together they can definitely lead to some really explosive turns. Certainly a really productive turn could be to kind of have all the combo pieces that you need in hand. Play Knut, play Gringotts, pass the turn, and then your next turn you've got 4 actions for starters, and we're not even done yet. So more about that. All right, so I keep mentioning how you really need to be able to find all the pieces of this combo. Well, there is another great card that just so happens to require charm lessons called Alohomora. This lets you search your deck and take a location, hey look, or an adventure. Remember this? Yeah, we really need both of these pieces. So this will essentially search for either of the very important pieces that we need. All right. We've also got 4 copies of Gringotts Vault Key. This will let you search your deck and take any card from your deck and put it in a hand. Now, this does require 6 power. 6 power can be hard to reach in this deck. It's not really designed to go much above 4. The spells and things like that cost above 4 are powered by Bravado. So it is theoretically possible that you have a turn with a lot of actions where you can go Bravado into Gringotts and then dig out that last piece you need. But generally speaking, this is going to help you set up beforehand. So weirdly, Gringotts Vault Key is one of the, in my experience, is one of the less effective searchers in here. But still, it's definitely good to have, and it can get you out of really any situation that you get into trouble with. Okay, so we're now into cards that you don't really want to even draw. These are cards that you want to use after you've drawn your entire hand. So this is Platform 9 3/4. This is going to let you discard one of your lessons from play to get 2 more actions this turn. So what does this look like? Well, a typical turn where you're going off, which tends to be around turn 5, I would say, is going to involve you having Diagon Alley in play already, getting at least 1 extra action through Gringotts or Knut or both, and having Bravado and Draco's Trick in hand. Okay, so what you're going to do is, with your first action, play Bravado. With your second action, play Draco's Trick, solving Diagon Alley. You're going to draw every single card in your deck except for 1, and 4 of those cards are going to be Platform 9 3/4. You're going to play these, discarding lessons that you no longer need from play. All you're really going to need at that point is to make sure that you have 1 Quidditch lesson in play and 1 action left to play Spiral Dive. You should keep doing this. Keep playing Platform 9 3/4. Discard it. Discard as many lessons as you need to, and get the actions that you need to continue playing. The rest of this deck we're just running a 1 of Hannah Abbott because it can help you find things that you need. It can also be put back into your deck, even though it's should be a healing card and is not. So it's just a great card, good to have. And then we're just running a couple Borrowed Wands, which are just kind of like a double lesson. You can really only play 1 wand at a time anyway, so they're just kind of in lieu of some of these additional lessons. So we've got a bunch of Charms lessons here. We got a bunch of Transfiguration lessons here. And we're only running 2 Quidditch lessons. It's actually feasible that you could do this with just 1 Quidditch lesson in your hand. The only thing you need that Quidditch lesson for is Spiral Dive. If you've got a 3-action turn, you play Draco's Trick, use it on Diagon Alley, draw the rest of your deck except for 1, have this huge handful of cards, and then start playing Platform 9 3/4, getting a bunch of extra actions, you are going to have Spiral Dive in your hand at that point, and you are going to have a Quidditch lesson to play. So with these extra actions, play the Quidditch lesson, play Spiral Dive. Okay. So what happens if you run into a problem where some of these combo pieces get in your discard pile? Well, that's actually where our starting character comes in. We are starting with Madame Pomfrey. Madame Pomfrey is a pretty common 1 of or 2 of in a lot of decks, just because 12 healing is a lot, even if you have to pay the 2 actions to do it. First of all, Madame Pomfrey is going to stop anybody who wants to play their own Madame Pomfrey from ever doing so. But most importantly, Madame Pomfrey is just going to sit there until you've got the combo assembled. And then, right before you pull the trigger on this Draco's Trick Diagon Alley, you're going to put any important cards that are in your discard pile back into your deck. If you don't have any of those important pieces, like your Quidditch lesson or your Spiral Dive, just put whatever cards you can get back into your draw pile so that it's as full as possible, so that when you draw all but one card, you're dealing the maximum amount of damage. So that's pretty much how the deck works. I've put a deck list in the description of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I think that this deck is probably on the level of something like the No Hands deck that we looked at earlier. It's really just a fun combo to try and play. When it works, it's incredibly satisfying, and when it doesn't, it's not much of a surprise. I do not think this is a top-tier deck, and I do think there are a lot of different ways that you could build this. I think it's certainly possible to build this Diagon Alley Draco's Trick Spiral Dive combo in another fashion. You might do it without charms at all. You might do it using Wand Shop to kind of power up to the high level of lessons that you need to play Draco's Trick. But interested if anyone else has any ideas for this, but I've found this one, at least in the little practice games that I've played, to be pretty satisfying and fun to play. So hope you enjoyed. Thanks.